What's up, everybody? This is Candy.
And this is B, and this is a Trend Kill Quickie.
We're back.
They're here.
Yay! Hey, everybody.
It's been a very long 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, 3. Hasn't it been 3?
Maybe it's been 3. I don't know.
Yeah, we can't keep track. March just didn't happen.
We went from March 2020 to March 2021, and nothing happened in either year.
Yeah, like what? Okay.
So today we have for you a story about Iron fucking Maiden. Sort of. It's Blayze Bayley. So for those of you who don't know, Blayze Bayley was the frontman for Iron Maiden from 1993 to 1999, filling in for Bruce Dickinson while he decided he wanted to focus on his solo career a little bit. And Blayze recently was in an interview where he basically just completely dogs grunge music, claiming that during his time with Iron Maiden, which would have been during the height of grunge music, that they were, quote, at war with grunge music, end quote, and also that, quote, they were trying to kill them. Kind of a bold statement.
Those are some fighting words.
Considering that Blayze Bayley kind of had mixed reviews during his stint in Iron Maiden to begin with.
Yeah, he definitely had a mixed reception from fans when he took over for Bruce. So just a little background about grunge. I mean, we all know and love grunge, I'm sure, and we know that it emerged from Seattle in the early 80s. And it was actually intended to bridge the mainstream heavy metal that was prevalent at the time in post-punk 80s alternative. But it didn't really hit any ground until about 1987. There was a compilation disc that was actually released, which had like Soundgarden, Skin Yard, Green River, and actually members of what we now know as Pearl Jam.
You just got jammed.
And it became even more mainstream when Soundgarden actually signed with the mainstream label in 1988. Actually, pretty much to the dismay of the fans, though, because as you know, grunge stands for nonconformity and counterculture. So when grunge bands started signing with these big record labels, fans were just not happy about it. And then in 1991, our beloved Nirvana actually hit #1 on Billboard's alternative songs chart. So it really was getting that Seattle grunge movement into the mainstream at that point. And right around that time is when Blayze Bayley took over.
And as many of us know, obviously Iron Maiden formed in 1975, so they've been around for a very long time with a revolving door of members here and there. I think pretty much everybody are in agreement that Bruce Dickinson is Iron Maiden.
Yes.
In their over 40 years of being together, they have sold over 100 million copies of their albums, not to mention the various awards that they've been nominated for and won. Most recently, they were nominated, as we did another episode, they were nominated for the 2021 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They have yet to announce those winners, but still got my fingers crossed for my boys. I grew up with it. It's my heart. They've released 16 albums, 13 live albums. They've had like 44 different singles, various EPs. I mean, they've got a massive career with very little promotion that they've ever really had to do, just because they became such an icon, and Bruce Dickinson kind of helped them become that icon, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. But also I know too that a lot of the mainstream marketing groups didn't really support Iron Maiden, so they really got their success all on their own with their talent and their sound.
And they did it early on too, and then it just kind of carried with them. I mean, they had Christian organizations fighting against them, you know, saying that they were Satanists and that they sold their soul to the devil. And we actually just, fun fact, watched American Satan last night, where they do kind of hint at Iron Maiden selling their soul to the devil. But recently, Bayley did an interview on a podcast, I'm assuming probably overseas where they're all from. I've never heard of this podcast before, but this quote kind of bugs me. I will actually use the full quote here because it is just kind of, it's important. So we'll just say that. So Blayze Bayley actually was reflecting on a show that they played in Seattle. Obviously, again, as we mentioned, this was during his time with Iron Maiden, which would have been during the height of grunge music. The quote goes as follows: "There were these people looking at us like we were some kind of dinosaur, and they were going, why aren't they dead yet? And then you've got a few rows in the front going, Maiden, yes, it's just unbelievable." And then he goes on to say, "And that's the war we had with the X Factor and Virtual XI. We were fighting for the very existence of real heavy metal, and where are they now? Metal is forever because it's in the heart of fans." End quote. What kind of bothered me about that is obviously those two albums being the albums that Blayze Bayley contributed to. He already had kind of mixed reviews to begin with. So was it really the fans? I feel like in a way he maybe just kind of knew that people didn't really like him and didn't know how to respond to it. Still maybe doesn't know how to respond that people just didn't really like him.
Yeah.
Maybe
he might be projecting it onto grunge being the reason for the lack of acceptance there. I mean, let's face it, like you said, Bruce is Iron Maiden. I mean, everybody knows that wail. It's like the most distinct sound you can ever hear. And that is what makes Iron Maiden. Those are incredibly large shoes for anyone to fill. I don't care how good of a vocalist you are. There is no one like Bruce. So unfortunately, it was just a bad setup for anybody who is going into that role, trying to take over to be the front man. I don't care. I mean, they could have been the best vocalists ever, and they still would not have been well received by the fans, just because that's just the power that Bruce had and still has to this day. It should have been intimidating for anybody too. I mean, Iron Maiden is one of the most influential and successful metal bands pretty much in history to a lot of people. So, you know, when you take away that core piece of the band and replace it with something else, people aren't going to like that other thing right away.
Blayze Bayley has also had his own success with Wolfsbane, which is the band that he was with prior to Iron Maiden and is with currently. Now, they haven't had obviously the level of success that Iron Maiden has. Most of their success has been overseas, but I mean, he has his own level of success. I feel like maybe, like you said, maybe he's just projecting a little bit onto the world and kind of blaming grunge music for something that really isn't necessarily anybody's fault. He wasn't, you know, I don't think fans really saw him as a good fit to replace Bruce Dickinson, but again, it's big shoes to fill. So, you know what they say about big shoes? Big socks.
What? Get out.
And breaking news as of yesterday, this will excite fans everywhere. Iron Maiden guitarist Adrian Smith actually says there are very exciting things coming down the pipeline from Iron Maiden coming very soon. I guess back in October, Bruce himself had actually said that they had been working in the studio, and Adrian pretty much just said, well, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. What else is there to do besides write music? They're headlining a 3-day music festival called Download in June of 2022, and they're actually headlining with Kiss and Biffy Clyro. So that's going to be a huge deal.
I mean, I'm not going to obviously be able to be there. I don't think either one of us are.
Tickets are probably outrageous.
But I mean, I know both of us, I mean, we're huge Iron Maiden fans as well as grunge fans. And I know a lot of people that feel the same way. So
yeah, you can't really compare the two. They're so different from one another. And you can't be angry at an entire new movement of music for your lack of success. Like, I kind of feel bad that he wasn't as well received as he wanted to be. I'm sure that was a whole lot of pressure, and that sucks.
And an ego shot. But that's really all we have for you guys today. I know it wasn't much. We just kind of tried to pull with what we could. Obviously, we know how we feel. We both love grunge and heavy metal and Iron Maiden in general. We'd also love to hear what you guys have to say. But once again, before we let you go, please just like, subscribe, hit the notification bells, share with your friends, do all that fun stuff. Keep supporting us because we love you guys.
Yeah, we do.
Once again, I'm Candy.
And I'm Bee.
And that was a Trend Kill Quickie. Bye, guys.
Liechtenstein. I'm not exactly sure how to say that. I just know
it's overseas.
It's somewhere. It's overseas.
Who, fun fact, his birth name is actually Paul Bruce Dickinson, which is funny because the original singer was actually also named Paul. Paul Di'Anno. You had a Paul Di'Anno and then Paul Bruce Dickinson.
That is a fun fact. I did not know that. Thank you so much, Candy.
I have random facts and knowledge.